Hi, this is Terry Ensley with Tree Marie Soapworks. I am going to show you today my process in making dancing funnel soaps, and I'm forcing glycerin rivers by having higher water content and using heating pads. This soap right here, I made a long time ago, and I noticed I got glycerin rivers in the dancing funnel and in the hanger swirl ones, and I took really good notes back then, so I used the same recipe in those, so I'm using that recipe today. These are my colorants from Elements Bath & Body. This is how I mix my colorants. I always take this extra step because I don't like getting those little clumps of color in. Probably wouldn't have to do it for this mica, but the oxides sometimes are really clumpy, so it just really helps so there's not those little specks in there. So I use a palette knife and a board of plexiglass. And that color was pretty and pink, and this one is just brown oxide, which I like this brown oxide because it has it's a darker brown. It's really pretty brown. And I use my little squeeze bottle. It has olive oil in it. And this takes a bit here, but it just is one extra step to really ensure that you're not going to have those specks. And here I'm preparing my 3 squeeze bottles. I'm using a liner, and these I believe are 12-ounce squeeze bottles. And then I'm using the tips of the pipette because I'm using a log mold. It takes a little bit to get into the corners, and you can't use just a regular squeeze bottle. It just doesn't work. It's too short. So I'm using Scotch tape and using these for extensions. And here's my lye water, and I'm putting sodium lactate in it, 1 teaspoon per pound of oils. And I always strain my lye solution. I usually don't need to, but I always like to be on the safe side in case there's any clumps. And here's my oil, my liquid oils going into my other oils. And my fragrance oil, which in this case was Autumn Fig Harvest from Brambleberry. And here's my lye water. This recipe is just made from olive oil, castor oil, and coconut oil for your oils. I'll post a link to where I found it. The white I diluted in water, and it really didn't come out that way. I thought it would do better for this recipe, but I normally dilute with oil, and I'm probably not going to do that with water anymore. I like the oil method better. It just seems like it's hard to mix in when it's in water. And I decided to add a little more titanium dioxide to the pink later on. I love this stick blender. It's from a company in Canada, but you can set the speed on it and on top, and it's really nice. And it fits in a small cup, It doesn't seem to trap air like some of them do. It's heavy duty. This is my heating pad, and I have a swivel under it, but I don't really think it was necessary. But it's an extra large heating pad, and I have it set to high temperature. And here we go. And this just goes on for a long time. So if you get bored, you can fast forward to the end. But it took me a long time to pour this batch. Of course, with any funnel pour, it's time consuming, but it's really worth it. One thing I did notice is I started off with bigger dots, and on the top it seemed like they were smaller, and the reason why was my batter got thick, and so it was so hard to squeeze that they just got smaller because I didn't squeeze as much. So this fragrance I used on Fig Harvest, it did thicken a bit on me last time, but I thought it actually made the little bubbles shaped more, or they were thicker. I thought that way. So I just used that scent again. But my hands were kind of regretting it after a while because it was really hard. I ended up cutting the tips off of these bottles toward the very end, so I could get more out at a time. But you can see if I hadn't pressed this to go through glycerin rivers, it would have turned out quite a bit different. Or if I would have used less water. I think for this one I used 34% water. I'll have to look it up. In the ones I showed at the beginning, I used 33%, I believe. And I still got glycerin rivers. Now I usually use 20 to 25% water, so I don't really get glycerin rivers anymore. Okay, here I'm covering it with another heating pad, and I've had that set on high. And believe it or not, I had these heating pads on for 6 hours. They have auto shut off, so I had to turn them back on after 2 hours, and I wasn't sure if anything was happening. So I'm glad to see here when I'm cutting that I did get glycerin rivers. Now this first part, you can see where they were a little smaller as I got up higher. Like these little dots are small, but you can see there's glycerin rivers. But then this next cut, you can see where this is the cutting off the bottom, the part that usually is just your outline color, the brown. You can see where they were better size. At least I liked them more at that size. And they showed off the glycerin rivers better at that size. The first time I put this through, I had the level was uneven on the where you can level it. I had it one up on one side, so it was uneven. So I fixed it, but I had to plane it again anyway. So. So I got glycerin rivers. I really like them. And here I'm just planing off the sides. I use that block at the end so I don't cut my fingers. And also sometimes it chunks off at the bottom, so that helps keep it together. And this, well, both of those my husband made for me. This one, we made it out of a piece of wood we got when we were in Japan, and real nice and smooth wood. I don't know what kind of wood it is. And the wire cutter I'm using is from the planer. I have the other kind, but it doesn't work so well when you're not on the edge of the table, and when I do video, I'm not on the edge of the table, so I use this one. I like the three middle ones came out the best, in my opinion. So, this is one of my favorite parts. I love to bevel soap, so I enjoy it. Although sometimes there's a lot of it to do, so I'm not so excited about it, but I do love it. I was impressed with how the pink came out, because my first one I used titanium dioxide in it as well when I made that dancing funnel soap in the beginning, and it didn't come out like the glycerin rivers were much better in the white than the pink. But these are pretty neat. Actually, they might have been better than the white. So there they are. Yeah, I like the pink better than the white. And here they are, and this is the first time I used my Nikon camera and I shot in RAW. I've never done that before, but I think it came out much better than the regular JPEG mode. So here it is.